Well, good to be with you again, Ripley Rotary, and I'm honored that I can share a program I almost said this morning, but it looks like this afternoon at this point. What I want to share with you about today is a little bit about, some of you had asked about my new work. I began in January this year as president of Memphis Theological Seminary. And I will give you just a little bit of background on our work there. We have about 200 students, and we're what you would call an ecumenical seminary, meaning of those 200 students, we have around 25 different denominations that we educate at any one time. So it's a melting pot of the church, all different cultures, backgrounds, city churches, country churches, poor, black, white. We have, and it's very interesting when you put that melting pot of people together, because we'll have a guy who's doing inner city ministry, gang ministry in Memphis, sitting in a classroom with a country preacher from North Mississippi that's got a 3-point charge in a Methodist church. We've turned out such outstanding pastors as Bob Rambo and Andy Stoddard, and a few rogues and ruffians like Jason Franklin and Jody Hill. So those are some of the alums that we have had go through our institution. Michael asked me about how we responded to COVID-19. We've been all online. We'll continue to be in the spring because so many of our students are commuters that come in from North Mississippi, in Arkansas, West Tennessee. And the majority of our students for many years were United Methodists. Now they're Baptists. Actually, even though we're owned by the Cumberland Presbyterian Church, my home denomination. But when I say those largest, the most we have from any one of those denominations is about 10% of our student population. So the Baptists that are represented, most of those are African American Baptists in the Memphis area who are the inner city doing ministry there in Memphis and the Mid-South. So what an opportunity, though, that I think, and what I was inspired that God had called me back to my alma mater, is that in this world where there's so much division and so much unrest at this time, that we celebrate in that place the one we hold in common more than anything that can separate us, and united in the love of Christ. So that's why I'm glad to be part of that mission and ministry. Each of our students who attend there, the cost of their education. You know, Chris, if we try to put a pencil to it, if a guy had to write a check, or a lady who's studying there, to pay for their entire tuition, it'd cost them about $20,000 a year. None of our students pay even half of that as a result of partners who share with us and help us educate future leaders in our church. So just give you kind of an overview of that work. That's what gets me excited every day, to put my little pale pen on and say, we're doing kingdom work. Not only are we educating ministers, but we're sustaining them financially for work of a lifetime in ministry. So what I'm going to talk a little bit about today, and I'm recording it where it'll be on my Facebook page if you want to refer to any of your friends, and I'll also put it on a YouTube channel where we can email that out. But I want to talk about, I studied in my doctoral work recently in strategic leadership. And one of the first things I learned as the new president of a seminary is that there were some essential traits of leadership that's really needed in that role, or in any role, whether we're leading a business, a dental practice, an educational setting, a community, or a city. We need certain principles to guard and guide our life. As a part of that, I recently taught a course at our seminary titled Biblical Leadership in Times of Crisis. You can access that on our website too, memphisseminary.edu, and just up at the very top you see Sunday Morning Seminary. Go back to the older entries. You can find some of the the PowerPoints that go along with what I'm going to say today. But what I want to give y'all as Rotarians here today, I want to share just a very summary key of that course I taught over 4 weeks, and I've also taught at Blue Mountain College before. I'm going to give you the whole thing in about 10 minutes today. A brief overview of the 10 leadership principles that I think are paramount as we seek to lead in our community, in our churches, in our families, and in the world around us. Now, in the course I teach in the seminary, I tie in scripture and I tie in some biblical examples as well as, business examples. So I talk about the marketplace as well as our faith. I won't go into all those details today because I'm giving you a summary, but you can have all those, like I said, in that place if you go to our website. So to organize myself in a new role, not knowing what I was going to do, as the president of the institution, as a hillbilly from North Mississippi that talks like me, and they call me up here to Memphis, Tennessee, I know they wondered, what in the world have we gotten into? And I knew one of the first things I needed prayer. I needed God to guide my work. And these 10 leadership principles I'm going to share with you today, I hope they're a gift to you. A gift to you in your business, in your family, and just in your life, striving to lead in the model that God would call you to do to serve the world around us. And that's who we are as Rotarians, right? We are servants. So to organize these 10 principles that lead my life and my daily work, I built an acronym around the word leadership. I want to share that with you today, and I hope it's something you can hold on to and easily remember and say daily, am I embodying these or other traits of leadership as I seek to serve others around me? As a Rotarian, as a husband, as a wife, as a community leader. So to begin with this morning, one of the first principles that I found essential in leadership, the L of leadership, is to listen. If we listen, we get good ideas from people all around us, don't we, Chris? Jim Collins, who wrote Good to Great, a Stanford-educated professor, saw after he evaluated thousands of companies, of the ones who transitioned from good companies to great companies, he said, what I saw, a common attribute, was a willingness to listen from the top. So we see it in the business world, but we also see it in our faith. You know, it was James, the brother of Jesus, who said, may we all be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. You know what I'm grateful for in James' words there? I think, Keith, he's not only saying be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry, but I think if we embody that first principle, it impacts the last principle. What I mean, if we listen more, we're going to be less angry. We're going to be more willing to do it together. So the L of leadership that I seek to guard my life daily and in my leadership role is to listen. The E of leadership, the first E of leadership that I have used to lead me in this transition is to remember to keep my eyes, that's the E, my eyes on the horizon. Meaning we must be people of vision. We must be considering where we're going. I think someone once said, if we don't know where we're going, you can be sure we're going to get there. We must have a plan. We must have a vision. We see that in Scripture where Solomon, the wisest man our world has ever known, says without vision, people perish. So in our company, running our insurance practice, running our First Monday and our dental practices, if we don't know where we're going, if we don't have a vision, we're not going to get there. So as leaders, may we continue to not only face the daily problems, but what's to come. The A of leadership. The A of leadership is a reminder for us that we need all hands on deck. That's the A. You know, if you think of a ship, when they originated that statement, all hands on deck, that was a time when they were in crisis, Mayor. They said, and they rang the bell, and they said, look, we need everybody right here, right now, to deal with our problem. What if we embody that not only when we're in crisis, but in every day, Shannon, we're committed to teamwork. That's the basis of what all hands on deck. It means we're all working together. We can't do it by ourselves, David. We need the resources of those around us. Coach for Kids this past weekend was a wonderful success. 503 coats were given away. I gave away 502 of them personally myself, but I needed help for that one coat. Y'all know I'm lying like a preacher right now. I gave away maybe 3 of them myself, but without Shannon and David and Lisa and Chris and Doc and the many others who gave of themselves, would it have happened, Doc? No way. It took all hands on deck. It took teamwork. If you're going to be a leader, you can't go it alone, right? You know, it's been said that there are no true Rambos. There are no true Lone Rangers. Even Lone Ranger had Tonto. He had some help, didn't he? So we need all hands on deck as leaders. The D of leadership that I have gained appreciation for in my new role is to don't fear change. We're in a world where when we're faced with challenges, Chris, Doc, we know that oftentimes we have to change the way we're doing things if we're going to survive, if we're going to thrive. And you know, change is not the opposite of our faith, too. You know, it's consistent with our faith. You know, Paul said in his second letter to the church in Corinth, he said he speaks of change when he says we become a new creation in Christ. We often talk about that profession of faith. For some of us in our denominational backgrounds, as that turning around, that conversion. You're no longer the same. So wouldn't we embody and be willing that when we're facing crisis, challenges around us, don't fear change. Sometimes it's necessary for our very existence and for us to be the ones who can impact others. Where am I at? That's D, isn't it, Tim? The second E of leadership that I'm really grateful for, and it says to me, is that we need to embrace easy wins. As the longtime CEO Tom Rayner would say of Lifeway, he said, you know, he calls this picking low-hanging fruit. Don't reinvent the wheel if the wheel's right there before. Some people speak of Occam's razor. Occam's razor. If 2 choices are before you, why not pick the simplest choice? So keep it simple. Stupid is when I say it to myself, right? That's smart. That's KISS leadership. Keep it simple so it can give you a chance to succeed. So pick those victories. But David, too, when we pick easy wins, and Kathy, if we celebrate the accomplishments of our team, it gives them momentum. If we encourage those around us by celebrating the wins, then we're going to inspire them to want to continue to win collectively together for those around us. That's easy wins. The R of leadership is to do this. Ready, aim, and then fire. Do y'all ever fire and then wonder if you aimed, and then if you think about it, you wasn't even ready? Gosh almighty, how often I've done that, Shannon. I just take action. I want to do something. I want to fix it. And I haven't really planned. Strategic planning. Having an idea. Get ready. Aim. And then fire. It works in marksmanship. It works in our life and in our faith. Now those are principles that oftentimes I describe as strategic leadership principles. Leadership with a purpose that help guard our work and guide our work. The last 4 principles that I want to leave you with today that have been impactful to me are leadership principles in general. Leadership principles that aren't so much strategic, Chris, but just principles that we need to embody daily. And oftentimes these last 4, they can be overlooked and not thought of as central, Tim, to leadership. But if you think of that word, those last 4 letters of leadership, they also spell the word ship, right? S-H-I-P. And if you think of a ship, whether it's an ocean-going ship or one of those little pirogues like Doc Howell gets on his lake and had never taken me fishing in, and I'm hoping he's going to one day. But even the biggest ship or the smallest boat has something very small, right, that moves it about the water, right? It's called a propeller. And it's oftentimes unseen, right? It's under the water. It's very small compared to the larger vessel, but without that propeller, it doesn't move toward its preferred destination, right? These last 4 principles that I want to share with you are most essential in guiding our life, in my opinion, as leaders. The S of leadership. We know it as Rotarians. Servanthood. Are we willing to serve? To live outside of ourselves? And as Shannon, as Doc was talking about him working last week and staying so long at the Rotary, you knew a joy that you had not expected through that experience. That's what we find when we serve. The H of leadership is humility. Those often overlooked attributes that are paramount. If we will humble ourselves and know we need others, but more importantly, as people of faith, need a power higher than ours to do what we want to do to impact the world around us for good, we embody humility. The I of leadership is integrity. Be honest. Keep our word. May our yes be yes and our no be no, because we can spend an entire life building up our name and lose it, right, with one bad choice. Guard our integrity as leaders. Your people will respect you. Your community, right? You can't trick them. Even our children, they know if we're phonies. We can't trick the world around us. May we guard our integrity so we will be those that others are willing to follow. And then finally, for me, the most important aspect of leadership is the one I'm going to name at the end. That's the P of leadership, prayer. To really know, to embody that humility and say, how can I be president of a seminary? I have no idea what I'm doing. The only way I can is to daily say, God, I need more of you and less of me. I don't know the way forward for this institution. I don't know how to bring healing to our broken land and the world around us. But God, you are the answer. You are the restorer. You are the physician. I hope these principles will be something you can hold on to in your journey. I'll post these two on my Facebook page, the notes later. But lastly, I want to end you today, the last few minutes of our time today, and I want to talk about that S of servanthood again, because it really speaks to us as Rotarians. And when I think of that S of leadership and servanthood as Rotarians, this day I'm especially mindful of one of our most recent departed Rotarians, our beloved Bobby Martin, who died just under a week ago, who embodied so much servanthood and what it meant to be a Rotarian. As Chris shared earlier, I've recently completed a book on the life and legacy of Bobby and their work as community leaders. And I'm going to read one chapter from that book today that speaks of our work as Rotarians and Bobby's work as a leader in our community. Okay? Can I share that with you? Service is the title of this chapter. Herbert Taylor knew, like all of his co-workers, that their company was failing. However, he was only one of a few who believed that his Chicago-based company could be saved. It was the 1930s, and the economy had not recovered from the Great Depression. Taylor instituted an unorthodox plan to resurrect the company. Rather than focus on financial numbers, he took a closer look at the company's ethical approach. Surely, some of his co-workers found such a strategy laughable. They were all going broke, and Taylor wanted them to re-examine their values rather than the bottom line. Perhaps some said, I'm not interested in being nice about going broke. I'll not go down without a fight. When we get back on track, we can re-examine our ethics. Right now, we have to try to survive. Maybe that was the opinion of some, but that was the very desire prompting Taylor's examination of his company's behavior. He believed that business ethics built upon high principles are paramount for a company's survival. So Taylor preached that a renewed passion for serving others was central to salvaging the company. He gained this inspiration from an outside source. Taylor was a member of a service-oriented organization made up of leaders in his community known as Rotary International. Their motto was then and is now, service above self. Taylor took that motto to heart. He believed that foundation of business ethics should be built upon serving others. Ultimately, his company used this as a working model, and Taylor devised a checklist for ethical conduct he called the four-way test that many of us are familiar with. Number one, is it truth? Number two, is it fair to all concerned? Number three, will it build goodwill and better friendship? And number four, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Rotary International would eventually adopt Taylor's four-way test as a guide for its members to evaluate their business ethics. Similarly, Bobby Martin and the People's Bank of Ripley, Mississippi have not only survived for over 90 years, but have also thrived by embracing an ethical commitment to serving others. How will our actions impact others in our community was the central and unifying question asked by Bobby Martin and Herbert Taylor. One does not have to look very far from outside the People's Bank headquarters to see its thumbprint within the larger community. Situated within eyesight of the bank is the Ripley High School Event Center. It's a state-of-the-art arena that far exceeds the norm for high school gymnasiums. The scoreboard at the top of the ceiling is a massive statistical display system. You would expect to see a game clock like this within the confines of a college complex rather than a high school arena. At the top of the scoreboard is a modest sign that reads, "The People's Bank of Ripley, Mississippi." This is a repeated theme throughout Tippah County. You will see the People's Bank trademark supporting events and organizations all over the county. It seems that no one is turned down when requesting assistance from this institution in banking. A respected businessman in the community once approached friends with an ambitious financial request to support a local youth camp. Several who'd been asked to participate declined for one reason or another, while some of the benefactors reduced their donation to 50% of the aggressive amount requested. The fund seeker eventually got up the nerve to make a call and set up a face-to-face meeting with his friend Bobby Martin. In his mind, it was cardinal sin number one to ever ask for a contribution over the phone. He deemed such an impersonal approach to be ineffective, but perhaps more repulsive. He felt it betrayed Southern hospitality and was rude. They started the conversation over the phone with lighthearted pleasantries, and the caller eventually stated that he wanted to come and visit Martin in person. He shared that there was a need in the community that he would like to discuss, but Martin became instantly engaged and pressed his friend for more information about the cause, even over the phone. The organizer hesitantly gave Martin the amount that he was requesting from each possible donor over the phone. Martin listened to the request that was accidentally given there and then. And then Martin replied with the coolness he'd learned from dealing with thousands of loan requests in his bank, "I think I want to do this amount instead." Rather than cut the donation amount, as some had, Martin doubled his contribution from the figure requested. Sound familiar, Kathy? A friend of Bobby Martin's described his giving with the following formula. Some people strive to give away 10% of their wealth. Bobby's probably given away closer to half of his income. Bobby Martin will not disclose how much it has cost him to serve his community and bristles at such words. "It hasn't cost me anything. Serving others has given me more than I could have ever imagined." Quote, Bobby Martin. When pressed for an explanation of these views that are so contrary to many in our culture, Martin shares this. The folks at Rotary really did get it right. He says this before reciting the motto by heart. You know it's true. One profits most who serves best. A cynical response to Martin and the bank might be, did they give so much did they give so much so more people will do business with the bank? Bobby Martin does not profess to be that skilled in financial forecasting. Quote, "We have just always believed in serving our community. Getting to help somebody else is my fun time." End quote. It's important to point out that the stockholders, the shareholders of the People's Bank, have been offered lucrative purchase offers throughout the years. In other words, if money was their motive, they could have sold out years ago and cashed in their chips, but they would not have known the joy of continually pouring life into their community. Quote, "We are not interested in selling the bank and going home to count our money. I absolutely love coming to work every day." End quote. Martin says that. In fact, he has already continued his employment more than 20 years past the traditional retirement age. In closing, Herbert Taylor restored his company in the 1930s Chicago by serving others. The People's Bank has enjoyed unequal success by sharing the same commitment to service in modern-day rural Mississippi. Time and place may change, but the commitment to others continues to produce fruit. The folks at Rotary did indeed get it right. The one who serves best profits most. When practiced with a sincere heart, the servant is mutually blessed along with the recipient. While at times the gain is financial, there's always an emotional or spiritual reward. The next time you take in a Tippah County sporting event, attend a family's benefit for medical expenses, or a fundraiser for a volunteer fire department, you can be sure that the People's Bank will be there as well, sometimes seen and at other times unseen, working behind the scenes, all the while serving those near and far, because they truly do embody a commitment to service above self. Thank you. God bless you.